Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Fight Island 5, Marlon Moraes versus Cory Sandhagen. And Shaq is going down this Saturday night in Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, Fight Island. You got the output king, Cory Sandhagen, taking on the head kick king, Marlon Moraes, number 1 versus number 4. I know there's some title implications on the line, my man. This is a really big fight in the bantamweight division.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, you could say both guys are looking to get back on track, even though Marlon Moraes won his last fight. But I know for whatever reason, the majority of people think that he lost that fight, even though I'm in the minority. I think he won. But some people say he hasn't been able to recover since the Cejudo fight, even though he's had one fight. And Sandhagen, he got tapped out in pretty much effortless fashion against the number 1 contender, Aljamain Sterling, his last fight. So I know he's looking to redeem himself. And if he could get this win, I mean, hey, he's right back in there in line for a title shot. So this is a very, very important fight.
I was going to save this for my main event breakdown, but since you brought up the Aldo fight, can I just bring up the fact that, yes, Jose Aldo won the second round against Marlon Moraes. You know who else Jose Aldo won the second round against, Shaq? Peter Yan. So, I mean, just because Jose Aldo might not ever touch gold again doesn't mean that he's not a tough competitor. Doesn't mean he's not still a very, hard guy to compete against.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I know he's not going to touch a belt, but that doesn't mean it's going to be an easy fight. Like, that doesn't mean you're not going to take blows and punches as well. Like, he's gonna crack you too. Like, you have to look. I remember when he fought Moicano or Jeremy Stevens. Like, you saw what happened to those guys. So, yeah, man, Peter Yan, the champ, man, that guy, in my opinion, is a step above everyone else. It's unfortunate my boy Henry Cejudo had to retire. I knew he was making a big mistake with that, that situation. But hey, it is what it is. But now Peter Yan's the champ, and we got a lot of new contenders, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, aside from the paycheck, honestly, like, I respect the fact that, he went out on top, because you see these guys like Tyron Woodley, and it's like, dude, like, it's alarming seeing, like, what they're doing these days. You know what I mean? Like, he's going out here losing 15 straight rounds. That's over an hour of octagon time. At least Henry didn't let it get to that point. Henry decided, hey, champ, I'm going out on top.
I mean, when you say 15 straight rounds, they kind of have to make it like maybe even 20, because like some of those are 10-8 rounds. So it's like, that kind of counts for like 2,
Yeah, it was. It's truly something to behold. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about in this card. Great card. 2 quick housekeeping notes. Got to give a quick shout out to the Braves for making it to the championship series. This is the first time in 19 years, Shaq, that they get past the divisional series, and now the fun begins. There's no more easy battles with the Marlins and the Reds. Now we got the Dodgers, so we're really about to see what the deal is. So shout out to the Braves representing Atlanta, and then also want to let y'all know today's my birthday, and the reason why I want to let y'all know that is because the only thing I want for my birthday is for y'all to hit that subscribe button and that like button. I truly appreciate it. Now, Shaq, let's get right down to business, because first up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between UFC newcomer Tagir Ulanbekov. He's 12-1, and Bruno Bulldog Silva is 10-5. Currently, they got Tagir Ulanbekov minus 410. The comeback on Bruno Bulldog is plus 330. So, interesting fight, man. Obviously, Ulanbekov's got the reputation of being one of Khabib's former training partners. He's arguably undefeated. I thought he beat Zalgas, but I'll say this, though, man. In a 3-round fight, he lost to Zalgas 29-28. In a 5-round fight, I thought he won 48-47. They didn't see it his way. It is what it is. As far as Bruno Bulldog is concerned, I know he's motivated for this fight, man. He's in fantastic shape. You see the kind of shape this kid is in. He's going to show up for this fight. Did the camp with Fight Ready with Henry Cejudo. This is going to be the best Bruno Bulldog we've ever seen, but is the best Bruno Bulldog we've ever seen enough to come out here and beat Ulanbekov?
Man, so it's actually pretty funny. So, first glance, I was thinking Bruno Silva versus Russian. It's pretty much, more than likely an automatic L for Bruno and out the door, I'm thinking. But then, when I really sat down and watched Tagir, man, I really wasn't that impressed, to be honest. I think he's one-dimensional with the grappling. Like you said, lost to Zalgas, even though I thought he won that fight. But Zalgas gave Paiva a good fight, but Zalgas, like, yes, I understand, like, Paiva was out there by himself, like, fucking, I know it on paper, Zalgas looks like a solid opponent, but, you know, the jury's still out on that guy. So I feel like Tagir is very one dimensional, and, I don't view him as like a Saeed type of Russian or, I just feel like he's a tough grappler who's looking to get the takedowns. And Bruno Silva, like you said, to be honest, I kind of jumped the gun. Like I usually say, come on here and say Bruno Silva's a bum. He went to split decision with a guy with, one leg and, this and that. And, but like, his UFC opponents, man, have been tough. I mean, you're talking Khalid Taha, who's a big power hitter at 135, who's actually fighting Jack Shore coming up. And then David Dvorak, man, and he gave him a good fight. It wasn't like he got his ass beat or anything. Like it came down to the wire. Dvorak slightly edged it. So I feel like, man, it could actually be a closer fight than the line indicates, and I actually do think it'll be a closer fight than it indicates, as in Bruno Silva might possibly weasel around, but man, I just feel like, in Abu Dhabi, the Russian connection, if it's close, Tagir's probably going to edge it, but I don't think honestly, his skill set warrants this type of line, but we'll see, man. I'll pick him for the win, but Bruno Silva, he's got to be hungry. His job's on the line. He's had a tough first two tough opponents. I think this is a step down, so we'll see.
Yeah, look, I'll just say this. If his name was Tagir Johnson instead of Tagir Ulanbekov, the line would be a lot closer. No doubt about it. And I think Bruno Silva's going to show up, but does that mean he's going to win? I don't know. Because, look, back in the day, I know you remember he went to a draw with Casey Kenny, and he's had glimpses and moments here and there. So I'll feel happy for the guy if he's able to come out here and get this upset. And I also won't be surprised, but I got to lean with the Russian. He's slightly bigger than Bruno Silva. He's actually a pretty big boy for the weight class. He's got some decent wrestling too. But yeah, at the current line, it's a dog or pass situation, but I'll slightly edge the favorite to get it done. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Tracy Cortez, she's 7-1, and Stephanie Egger is 5-1. Currently, they got Tracy Cortez minus 185. The comeback on Stephanie Egger is plus 160. So interesting because it's wrestling versus judo. Tracy Cortez being the wrestler, Stephanie Egger being the judo player, and Stephanie Egger's done some good stuff on the grappling scene. I know everyone's talking about this Gabby Garcia match. And look, I'll give her all the credit in the world, and if this was a pure grappling match, I might have a different opinion, but this is not a pure grappling match. Pulling guard in an MMA fight isn't exactly something you want to advise someone to do, Shaq, unless you know for a fact she's going to come out here and get that armbar. But like in a jiu-jitsu match, with a rash guard or even with the gi on, pulling guard isn't that big of a deal. But in MMA against a wrestler, it's a big no-no. So I don't know, man. I most likely see Tracy Cortez coming out here, getting the takedowns, winning this decision. But, at this kind of price, I'd probably just stay away altogether. Hey, look, I got to give Egger some credit. She's beat, some UFC vets on a regional scene. Granted, it was Mara Romero Barella, who ended up going like 2-5 in the UFC, but hey, at least we know she can beat her. You know what I mean? So at least that's a step in the right direction. But I'll lean with Tracy Cortez. I think that wrestling is better than judo, at least as far as MMA is concerned. But just don't do anything stupid. I think that Tracy Cortez is still kind of green herself. I still think that she's got some room to grow as well. So I wouldn't go crazy at the betting window, but I'll slightly edge the favorite here.
Yeah, man, I pretty much agree with everything you say. The thing I'm kind of curious about here is like, Cortez is the prospect. She won on Contender Series. She fought in Invicta a few times. This girl Egger actually fought in Invicta and lost to Alexa Connors a few years ago, and pretty much all her other fights are on the Euros. She made a career off beating 0-0. I'm a little skeptical about how much confidence people are putting into Egger this week. I mean, the Cortez, from what I understand, opened up a hefty favorite. Now it's like, medium range. Like, I'm not convinced this girl Egger is going to be able to compete. Now, Cortez, when she was, I see a fight against Erin Blanchfield, who's actually, I think she's fighting Pearl Gonzalez. where she did get on her back and she didn't get up, and it was a big round for her opponent. But offensively, wrestling wise, she's pretty good. I gotta go with Cortez here. I just have a feeling that people are putting too much stock on Stephanie Egger. Like, she's a little older. I know she has got the judo background, but I just feel like the opponents, or maybe because I know she's only beaten Vanessa Mello, but in the UFC, that experience I think is gonna carry. So I got Cortez.
Well, now it gets really fun, Shaq, because next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Giga Chikadze, he's 10-2, and Omar Moraes is 10-0. Currently, they got Omar Moraes minus 155. The comeback on Giga Chikadze is plus 135. Shaq, I mean, what a fucking fight we got here. Two studs, two former kickboxers that really transition into MMA nicely. I mean, I got nothing but good things to say about both these guys. Where do you even start while handicapping a fight like this, man? What do you think?
Yeah, man, it's a great matchup, and it's unfortunate because I like both of these guys. I mean, man, I've been knowing about both. I met Giga Chikadze a few years ago in person. When he wasn't even a UFC fighter. When he was still a kickboxer. So, and then Omar Moraes, he was supposed to fight Rob. Like, we've been knowing about him even before he got to UFC. So, yeah, man, it's a good fight. Omar's dropping to 45s. I'm interested to see how he looks. I know he takes the sport very seriously. He's not a young prospect. He's like 34, 35. So he's a lot more mature, undefeated. I honestly think Omar has the skills to fight with some of the top guys. And now we got a matchup with two prospects. Look, I see if Omar, makes the weight, which I do expect he will, I feel like this is a matchup of, a little slightly slower, methodical, more powerful Omar Moraes versus, slightly sharper, more dynamic, looser Giga Chikadze. And it's going to be a battle of, can Omar rough Giga up and move forward and get better as the fight progresses? Because we've seen Chikadze kind of fade late in pretty much all his fights. Against Brandon Davis, he lost the third round. Against Emmers, he lost the third round pretty big. Then he had the fight with Erwin Rivera, it was a bantamweight. So, but like in those two first fights, especially, he definitely lost the third round big. And we remember what happened in the third round against Austin Springer on Dana White Contender Series. So it's safe to say that Giga Chikadze, with all that dynamic kicking ability and that left kick, that he fatigues, and that's just because the style is so dynamic. But there is a chance he gets off to a very good lead because, man, when he's feinting and faking like that, those type of kickboxers, man, they can and he's getting more experience in MMA, man. He's getting more comfortable in his grappling, and I highly doubt Omar Moraes is going to be shooting any takedowns in this fight. So, man, I feel like it's a pass fight for me. I slightly, lean Omar just because I feel like Omar is a little tougher. Not saying that Giga's not tough, but I just feel like Omar's a real, true Latin warrior that's willing to stand toe-to-toe and eat whatever shots he has to. And I mean, look at all his fights, man. His kicks are super hard. I'm not saying that he kicks harder than Giga Chikadze, but I feel like his basic right kick, man, can carry him through the entire fight. I know Giga likes to throw a bunch of different ones, but, man, I feel like Omar Moraes, man, just has a very strong fundamentals, slightly better cardio, in my opinion, and is getting better fight to fight, man. And I feel like, he might struggle early, but I see him getting better in that second and third round and really start to hurt Chikadze, man. And I think he's going to pick up the win. So I'm going to go with Omar Moraes to remain undefeated.
Yeah, man, this is such a good fight. I mean, if you think that Giga Chikadze is just some, kickboxer trying to transition into MMA and that you can just take him down one time and the fight's going to be over, like, I think you might have another thing coming because he truly is evolving his game and he's not neglecting any areas. I mean, when you train with a guy like Beneil Dariush, a serious black belt like that, every single day, look, jiu-jitsu might not become your strong suit, but I mean, it's at least going to catch up. It's at least going to get better, and that's what he's been doing. I mean, he's stuffing the takedowns better these days. He's getting back up from bottom. He's even threatening with submissions of his own. So I see the evolution in his game. I mean, you compare that Contender Series fight to his UFC fights, and it's night and day. So this is not a Gokhan Saki situation where, look, all the respect in the world to, the kickboxing legend Gokhan Saki, but he wasn't able to make that transition return to MMA successfully, and you've seen a bunch of other guys where it just doesn't translate, but it's translating with Giga Chikadze. So all the respect in the world, and obviously that Giga kick, you already know the deal with that Giga kick. It sounds like a fucking baseball bat to the ribs. But Omar Moraes is a guy I got a lot of respect for too. Very, very physical. I don't think he's going to have any issues making weight. In fact, I think he's going to look shredded. I think he's going to look ripped. And when you talk about a true Latin warrior, like you mentioned, man, when you think about the fact that this guy moved from Venezuela to the United States with the sole goal of, chasing a dream. He probably didn't have much money in his pocket. Like, this isn't the kind of guy who's going to be, at the McDonald's drive-thru fucking off. This isn't the kind of guy who's going to be skipping practice. Like, Omar Moraes, he takes this shit seriously. So I see it being a very close fight. I slightly edge Moraes because I think that if shit does start to get kind of sketchy on the feet, he might be able to mix in a takedown or two. Not necessarily dominate on the mat, but just kind of edge it out a little bit. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to do at the betting window, so I'm just going to sit back and watch, two of my favorite featherweight prospects go at it. I think it should be a hell of a fight. I slightly edge Omar in this one. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Ali Alqaisi, he's 8-4, and Tony Kelley is 7-2. Currently, they got Tony Kelley minus 230. The comeback on Ali Alqaisi is plus 190. So this is another interesting fight, man. So Ali Alqaisi, he's a very tough guy. I think that he's kind of stiff in the stand-up shack, and I think his best, the best part of his game is his takedowns. Now, with that being said, though, his top control wasn't that great in his UFC debut. Erwin Rivera was able to, scramble back up to the feet. And then also in Ali Alqaisi's regional fights, he made a couple no-nos that aren't going to fly in the UFC. Like, for example, going for guillotines, and then when the opponent passes guard, he's still hanging on to the neck. That's asking for a Von Flue to happen at the UFC level. So I still feel like he's got to get some more experience, but you could say similar things about Tony Kelley. He needs a little more seasoning too, but the thing with him that I like is that even in a loss to a much bigger man and to a serious prospect in Kai Kamaka, he went out there and he attempted 300 strikes, and he officially landed over 100 significant strikes in his UFC debut. Like that's a very good sign, and I feel like while this fight stays standing, there's going to be a big strike differential in this fight. This is the kind of matchup DraftKings players love, because if Alqaisi wins, he's going to get takedowns, but if Tony Kelley wins, he's going to come out here and put up a significant strike record. So I got to go with Tony Kelley here. I don't think that Ali Alqaisi has the top control to control Tony Kelley, so I think he might get a takedown or two, but I think Tony Kelley can scramble back up, and then on the feet, that's where the big advantage is going to come. He's going to mix in the calf kicks. He's going to just, for every 5 strikes that Tony Kelley lands, it's only going to be 1 or 2 coming back from Ali Alqaisi, so I think that's going to be the difference. I got Tony Kelley probably by unanimous decision here.
Yeah, man. I think this fight is pretty much a case of you got Alqaisi, who a very tough guy, but I feel like it's pretty clear to see where his ceiling is. I mean, it's like there's nothing about him. Like you said, he's a little stiff. He moves a little bit on the older side. A very basic game, straightforward game. He's either looking to get the takedowns or just basic boxing in the pocket, man. As where I feel like Tony Kelley, although he lost, and look, Alqaisi had a good showing. It wasn't like he got his ass beat against Erwin Rivera either. I mean, it was a close fight that came down to the wire, but he slowed, and he got cut open bad, and he kind of just fatigued as the fight got on. Now Tony Kelley, Kamaka, man, that dude's left hook was money, man. That dude, keep an eye out for Kai Kamaka. That dude hits really hard. I know he's Ray Cooper's homie, so I'm a big fan of Ray Cooper's as well. So yeah, that fight, man, it was just a higher level fight in my opinion. At 145 pounds, and look, Tony Kelley, he's only got 7 fights, 5-2. Lost to Kamaka, lost to Kevin Aguilar, but man, he's there against some good guy for this amount of fights in his career. I feel like this fight is his for the taking. I feel like you said, he more, and he just has a more wider arsenal, the knees, the the clinch. Now he's dropping to 35, which I know he's having hard exercise even more. So I feel like the cardio is going to be there. And, that last fight with Kamaka, for a short notice fight, man, I thought he displayed fairly good cardio because a lot of guys, man, Kamaka's hitting them to the body like that with that left hook and them kicks, man. I feel like they would have folded. And he's definitely got that, that Louisiana spirit, like my boy Dustin Poirier. So here, get the win, land a different, wider array of strikes against Alqaisi, while Alqaisi just going to be looking to press and, hug with the takedowns, man. So I feel like Tony Kelley, this is his fight, and I feel like he's actually going to finish Alqaisi somewhere along the way. So I got Tony Kelley.
The next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Impa Ksanganay. He's 8-0, and Joaquin Buckley is 10-3. Currently, they got Impa Ksanganay minus 250. The comeback on Joaquin Buckley is plus 210. Shaq, I know the fans that have the battle know we've been high on Impa Ksanganay for a very long time. We saw him fight in Atlanta against Tubbs. He was only 4-0 at the time. I don't know how the hell that fight was a split decision. He clearly won that fight, but he's the kind of kid that, we talk about these guys with 10 or less pro fights making these big improvements every single time we see them, and that's true. But with him, the improvements are like astronomical because this isn't just some ordinary guy that's had less than 10 pro fights. This is a guy that's from Congo, and he's not just a physical freak, but he's very intelligent too. He's got a bachelor's in finance and accounting. You hear him talk. He's a very smart guy. He's a brilliant kid. I hear him talk. I'm like, God damn, this is a unique individual. And I think he's got the fight IQ. I think that he's got the physical tools. And you compare, when you want to talk about improvements, let's compare his second Contender Series fight to his UFC debut, which is only like a month apart. And he looks like a different guy every single time we see him fight. And look, I like Joaquin Buckley as a fan. Anytime you got a fighter that's going to go out there and just throw big bombs, hey, as a fan, I love to see it. But as a betting man, I think that he's kind of like a club fighter. I think he's kind of like an NFC main event type fighter. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, he's very exciting to watch, but there's not much depth to his game. If the big bombs aren't working, then what? You know what I mean? Is he going to come out here and mix in takedowns? Is he, going to throw head kicks? What's going to happen if the big bombs don't work for Joaquin Buckley? I just don't feel like there's a plan B or a plan C. Whereas with Impa Ksanganay, if you bet on Impa and he decides to go out there and stand and bang with him, maybe that's not the ideal scenario, but I think he can hang there too. But if for whatever reason that doesn't work, he can pin him up against the fence in the clinch. He can mix in takedowns. He's just got so many different ways to win this fight. And I want to take it a step further, Shaq. When you talk about throwing big bombs, isn't that what Maki Pitolo's known for? You know what I mean? I just feel like Maki's a better version of what Joaquin brings to the table. Even though Joaquin might be a southpaw and this and that, it doesn't matter. I feel like Maki is more experienced. Maki is a more dangerous opponent, and I felt like Impa handled the tough brawler really well. I feel like there's honestly a step down in competition, and this is no disrespect. I like Joaquin. He's fun to watch, but I'm very high on Impa. I think one day he could be a future top 15 guy, and this is just one step closer up the ladder. So I got Impa via a very dominant win here.
Yeah, man. I agree, man. Impa Ksanganay, since the time I saw him fight Tubbs, look, it wasn't the most entertaining fight, but he got the job done. And from what I understood, he had at the time he had only been pro for a few months, so it was quite. I was like, damn, this guy. And then he made it to Contender Series shortly after. Won as a huge plus 400 underdog against some dude that made SportsCenter top 10 plays the fight previously before that. And he ended up breaking that guy. The thing I like about Ksanganay, he's a grinder, man. Dude will break you. That physicality, and this matchup with Buckley, I feel like is right up his alley. Like you said, Buckley's fun to watch. He'll swing. Yeah, I give him that. But like you said, what else? What is he gonna press with the takedowns? Is he gonna submit me off his back? Is he gonna? I feel like the tougher matchups for Impa are gonna be the guys with sharp, fast striking on the outside that maybe throw knees up the middle, or it's gonna have to be a more complex guy than Joaquin Buckley. I mean, that's your game plan to swing with Impa. I mean, good luck with that. I feel like if Impa wants to swing with him, we can swing, but Impa's not going to do that. And like you said, the kid's mental. I mean, he thinks a little bit differently, and I think he's got that mean streak in him, man. Like he's breaking these guys, man. He's taking these guys down. I know you remember those knees to the body on the Contender Series against Anthony Adams, where he was those GSP knees. Like you remember that he was doing on who did GSP do that on? Was it Matt Serra?
Matt Serra.
Yeah. So like I feel like Impa Ksanganay is gonna honestly just outwill Joaquin Buckley. I feel like he can press him against the cage. Joaquin Buckley, I don't think he has the chin to kind of complete this style. You know, there's this guy, his fight in LFA, he knocked that dude out, but he actually fought that dude previously and he got knocked out against that guy. And that Kevin Holland fight, man, that was a vicious knockout, a more vicious knockout because his leg got folded back. And I just feel like he hasn't really, I know he fought Logan Storley in Bellator and got laid on for 3 rounds. And, I just feel like he, like you said, might be a club fighter, man. I'm not sure if he's ready for this type of level yet. So I'm going to go with Impa Ksanganay.
Now, next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Rodrigo Nascimento, he's 8-0, and Chris Daukaus is 9-3. Currently, they got Rodrigo Nascimento minus 260. The comeback on Chris Daukaus is plus 220. Shaq, you know what's interesting? When we first broke down the last Chris Daukaus fight, I was talking about how usually with brother tandems, there's the good brother and the shitty brother. But interestingly enough, it's Chris Daukaus that has a UFC win and not Kyle Daukaus. So, I bet they're giving each other shit about that. But that being said, man, 2 black belts here. And, me and you were on the phone the other day. You brought up a very good point. You said that Chris Daukaus has actually been slimming down a little bit. He's been losing some weight. So that's something you like to see. Seems like he's been taking it a lot more seriously. Seems like, some of those past fights, it might not be the same guy anymore. But that being said, Rodrigo Nascimento was very impressive in that debut. So who do you think wins this heavyweight fight?
Yeah, man, I feel like it's a good heavyweight fight. Young prospects. Nascimento, I mean, not much bad to say about him. I mean, he's handled everyone accordingly. It seems like a good ground player. I mean, he's that dude he fought on Contender Series. He took him down, submitted him, and Dontel Mays, he handled him accordingly. So there's really not too much I know about Nascimento as far as what happens if he gets pushed or his opponents. He's pretty much ran through them all. I feel like Daukaus has more losses, but I feel like he's more experienced and fought tougher competition. I know the Brazilian heavyweight scene. Just from history. Marcelo Gomes and. So just knowing some of these dudes, like they might appear super hyped, from first sight, but the farther you go, there was another one too, man. Junior Albini, yeah, Junior. Remember my boy Junior, baby. Remember he was supposed to be the next heavyweight prospect. Remember that stun he pulled against Arlovsky when he wouldn't throw.
How could I forget?
But yeah, man, I feel like so I feel like Daukaus, when he lost to Anzu, that was a fight he was winning. He had Anzu wobbled all over the place. I think he just gassed out. And when you look at his size back then, man, he was a big belly guy. Now he's 16, 17 pounds. So I do think from here on forward, we're going to be seeing the best version of Chris Daukaus. Man, I just feel like, I'm not going to say like Nascimento is a fraud because I don't think he's a fraud. I think he's good. I just haven't seen him necessarily in a real fight. Dontel Mays, look, is athletic, but Dontel Mays has no ground game, and Dontel Mays. We've been seeing Dontel fight forever, man. Like Dontel Mays is, let's see if he can beat Felipe Lins, But hey, I think, I just feel like this is a more even playing field than the line indicates. The way Daukaus looked that last fight, I know it was Parker Porter, but hey, it's even to me, man. Parker Porter, was the favorite, and Chris Daukaus went out there and absolutely smoked him. That wasn't like one where I was like Porter sucks. Like the counters that Daukaus was throwing. He had some underrated speed for a heavyweight, in my opinion. Kind of like Bozer or. He looks, big and slow, but the hand speed I was impressed with, man. So, man, I'm actually taking for the upset. I just think the line's off, but we'll see what happens. I'm not saying Nascimento's a fraud, but I just feel like it's closer to a 50-50 fight. So the odds are super wide. So I'll go with Daukaus.
Yeah, look, I respect the pick. Man, I'm still not sure what to think about Daukaus because I agree with you. He's been losing weight. He's been looking better. He's also a black belt, so it might not be as easy for Rodrigo Nascimento. But, going into that last Rodrigo Nascimento fight, I felt like there was not much footage of him on the regional scene. And he kind of impressed me in that debut, man. I know it was a hand-picked opponent, but, not even the fact that he just took him down and submitted him and stuff, but even on the feet, the head kicks, I like what I see. I feel like he's slightly more athletic. So I do agree with you. The line can be closer, but I'll slightly lean with the favorite to get it done here. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Tom Breese, he's 11-2, and KB Bhullar is 8-0. Currently, they got Tom Breese minus 260. The comeback on KB Bhullar is plus 220. Now, Shaka, one thing I got to say is that KB Bhullar single-handedly avoided the biggest ass whooping in Contender Series history because he was supposed to go in there against Bruno Oliveira, and not only was that going to be my first Contender Series bet ever, it was going to be my first Contender Series max bet ever because Bruno Oliveira was going to go out there, finish him in the first round. But now he gets to fight Tom Breese, and look, this fight isn't even about KB Bhullar, man. This fight is about Tom Breese. If I know for a fact that Tom Breese is going to show up on Saturday night, Tom Breese is going to mop the floor with this guy, man. I mean, Tom Breese is better everywhere the fight goes. He's got better boxing, better jiu-jitsu, more experience, the whole bit. It's just that I don't know Tom Breese personally. I don't have any inside information in his camp, so I don't know where his headspace is at. And that's just the unfortunate truth here. Because when we talk about KB Bhullar, I mean, the only thing he's got going for him is that he's 6'4". I mean, he doesn't have that much power. He's not bad or anything. Don't get me wrong. He's not bad. He's just kind of average. Kind of like if you gas out against him, he can be kind of opportunistic. That's about the extent of it. So this is really about Tom Breese and nothing else. And I think if Tom Breese shows up here, he's going to win this fight, Shaq. And, this ain't Ian Heinisch anymore, man. This ain't Brendan Allen anymore. This is the reason that he's fighting, because at first I was like, well, why didn't they call up Bruno Oliveira? Why'd they call up this guy? It's like, I get it. Let's get Tom Breese back on track. Bruno Oliveira would knock out Tom Breese in the first round. But here, this is a fight where he might be like, you know what? I can show up against this guy. I can beat this guy. And I think Tom Breese is getting back on track Saturday night, man. So I got Tom Breese for the win.
Yeah, I think Breeze should get on track. And I'll say it, if Breeze wants to fight, then he'll win this fight, But if he still has some hesitancy about fighting, and if he's still questioning if he wants to fight, and if he'd prefer to do jiu-jitsu matches, which is what I see him, I have a little hesitancy because it's like I'm seeing him do all these jiu-jitsu matches, but it's like, bro, do you want to fight or do you want to do jiu-jitsu? You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that, but KB Bhullar wants to fight. Now, on the like you said, KB Bhullar, there's nothing special about him. The only thing is, if he does sense a guy, doesn't want to fight, then he will turn up on you. And he does get caught with some big shots, but hey, he's got a good chin, and I've seen him come back. It's just, his best win is Matt Dwyer, and Matt Dwyer is like, kind of a can, and I mean, he kind of struggled with Dwyer, but I will say KB Bhullar at least has a fighting spirit. As where Breeze, yeah, we can say, it's not, Heinisch, but like, you remember he did pull out of a fight with Aluwali Bengbozi, which is like a little bit of a head scratcher. It's like, Tom, we can submit this guy, like, you don't have to pull out of the fight, bro. One takedown and you'll be out of, and we can get him out of here. But look, I'm not gonna make that much fun about it, but I think Breeze is gonna be my pick to win. But I have a lot of hesitancy just because, yeah, he lost. It's Brendan Allen. Brendan's doing his thing, but there was no effort in that. Then he quit right away the second things got tough, and if he keeps making that a habit, man, then KB Bhullar will come out here and get a win. But I'll go with Breeze.
Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Yussef Zalal, he's 10-2, and Ilia Tuporia is 8-0. Currently, they got Yussef Zalal minus 170. The comeback on Ilia Tuporia is plus 150. So this is the UFC debut of Ilia Tuporia. Fights out of Georgia. Not Georgia where we're from, but Georgia where Merab Dvalishvili's from. And similar to Merab, this kid's a takedown machine. This is a great signing by the UFC. And honestly, man, this is the first time since Yussef Zalal's regional fights where he lost those 2 back-to-back fights that he fights a very strong wrestler. Because these 3 UFC fights, I got to give Zalal a lot of credit. You know, he's a good point fighter, got great calf kicks, nice entries to his takedowns. The fight IQ's on point, and I just like the kid. He comes to win fights, so I respect him. But this is kind of a different challenge. So how you see this fight going, man?
Yeah, I feel like Zalal's undefeated, but to be honest, Peter Barrett's a nice guy, but like, I know he was undefeated, but I have doubts if he's gonna keep his job in a few years. You know what I'm saying? Or, for example, Jordan Griffin was pretty much losing an entire fight to T.J. Brown at one point, and Poole was able to pull off a submission. But you know what I'm saying? Like, these guys that he's been fighting are like real, flaky, sketchy. As where I feel like Ilia, man, is the best opponent he's going to fight by far. Ilia, he's got the experience in Cage Warriors. He's fought good opponents on the local scene. He's shown that he's got good power. He's shown that he can come back from adversity. I've seen him get dropped with a head kick in a fight and come back and win the fight by finish. So, he's a very tough guy. He picks guys up in the air, and that's something Zalal has struggled with in the past. But I feel like he's gotten a little bit better with it, but at the same time, he's been doing it against guys that I feel like are not up to par. So I feel like it's honestly, is closer to a 50-50 fight. Zalal's got good footwork, like all those Factory X guys, like Gutierrez and Royval and all these other dudes that they have, man. They're super hard to track. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's just one of these things where, is Ilia in good enough shape, and is he gonna? Because most of his wins are by finish, and I'm not sure, has he been the distance yet?
No, he hasn't even been to the third round yet.
Yeah, exactly. So he's a finisher, and yeah, it is in the back of my mind if he's going to be able to have the cardio. Because look, Zalal's out there. Them Factory X boys are out there dancing all over the cage, man. It's hard to get a hold of them, but all of them have a similar flaw, man. Their wrestling is very shaky. Gutierrez, Royval, Yussef. So, I feel like if Ilia is able to close the distance and get on top of him, that he could possibly give Zalal a lot of problems. So I think it is closer to a 50-50 fight. It wouldn't shock me if Zalal just got the better of it as the fight progresses. But hey, I'll go with the dog. I feel like it's some value. I'll go with Ilia. I think he can get enough takedowns, and I do think he can win a decision just with those takedowns, but it's going to be a tough fight, man. Either way you look at it, just because this is a step up for both guys. Both guys are going to take damage in this fight, but I see this being Yussef Zalal's first real fight, like, since Griffin. Not saying Griffin's not a real fight because Griffin's experienced, but Griffin makes a lot of mistakes. That's where I feel like Ilia is young, hungry, just like him. So we'll see.
Yeah, look, I like Zalal a lot. He's got the calf kick game, like I mentioned, good takedowns, just the fight IQ, doesn't take a lot of damage, so I respect him a lot. Definitely someone I've been keeping an eye out for. But let's just be honest about the guys he's been fighting. When you talk about Austin Lingo, he's known for like a big overhand right. He's not a takedown threat at all. When you talk about Jordan Griffin, he's known for kind of getting dominated and then coming back with opportunistic submissions. He's not known for being a takedown threat. When you talk about Peter Barrett, he's just kind of like a Boston meathead brawler, kind of like Kyle Bochniak. He's not a takedown threat either. So this is the first real takedown threat Yussef Zalal's fought since those 2 back-to-back fights he lost in LFA. And, I guess the criticism for Ilia, and it's not a criticism on my part, but people are saying he's never been to the third round, he's never been the distance. Well, none of these guys can hang with him, and he can overcome adversity. He's tough too, because his last fight, he fought a 6'1" opponent, and that 6'1" opponent dropped him with a head kick. And right then and there, he could have covered up, let the ref intervene. It would have only been his first L, and no one would have held it against him, bounced back better. But he gets back up, and then he starches the guy. So I feel like his hands have been catching up, because you watch some of his earlier fights, and he was just strictly a grappler. But now his entire game is starting to get more well-rounded. I like what he brings to the table, and I actually agree with you here. I think he's going to come out here and get the upset, and I think this might be one of the last times we do see him as an underdog in the UFC. Now, one thing I want to point out, similar to Merab, Merab had to pay his dues. Merab actually came out here and lost his first 2 UFC fights. So if Ilia's got to take his first L, I understand. But, man, I think it's a good stylistic matchup for him. So I'm going to roll with Ilia in this spot. Now, next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Tom Aspinall, he's 8-2, and Alan Baudot is 8-1. But actually, he's 7-2 because he lost his last fight, Shaq, but we'll get into that in a second. Currently, they got Tom Aspinall minus 580. The comeback on Alan Baudot is plus 440. So, Shaq, listen, man, I like this kid, Tom Aspinall, a lot. I think that he's a very bright prospect in the heavyweight division. And oftentimes, these guys at heavyweight, they don't come into their prime until they're in their late 30s, even early 40s. This kid's 25 years old. He's got the black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's 6'5", and he actually trains his boxing with Tyson Fury. And he's in there with Darren Till as well. So I like what this kid brings to the table, man. And with Alan Baudot, oh, man. Firstly, he comes from that TKO scene in Canada, which is extremely suspect. You saw last week the biggest favorite on the card, Air Jordan, minus 600 favorite, goes to a draw, gets dropped in the first round. The week prior, you see TJ Laramie getting submitted in under a minute. So, no offense to all our Canadian fans. We love you guys. But, man, I feel like that TKO scene doesn't really bring their prospects up the right way, kind of like our scene does. So the reason I bring that up is because this kid Baudot is from that TKO scene, and let's be honest, he lost his last fight. He got choked out in the third round, his last fight, but for whatever reason, they overturned it. They called it a win for him, which is not a win at all. And he's going out here, throwing somersaults and spamming spins and just doing a bunch of unnecessary shit. And also, Shaq, I mentioned how he was from the TKO scene. How I said TKO is a suspect? Another regional scene that's really suspect? That EFC scene, the South African scene. And I know you remember when Dalcha Lunjambula made his UFC debut and we were scouting him, and you remember how he face planted this random guy in 20 seconds? Well, that random guy is Alan Baudot, and now he's making his UFC debut. Look, Sergey Spivak pulled out the fight. They needed someone to take it on short notice, and I think Saturday night in Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, at Fight Island, Tom Aspinall is going to knock Alan Baudot out in the first round. So I got Tom Aspinall here.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick with this one. Alan Baudot, he's in big fucking trouble, man. I mean, Aspinall is going to run through him. I'm going to say first round submission. This guy shouldn't be in the UFC, and for this will become a squash match, man. Unfortunately, sometimes, these I hate to say it, but these bums have to come in here and take an ass whooping. So yeah.
So next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Markus Maluko Perez. He's 12-3, and Dricus du Plessis is 14-2. Currently, they got Dricus du Plessis minus 160. The comeback on Markus Perez is plus 140. So, Shaq, I mentioned that EFC scene. Well, guess what? This kid, Dricus du Plessis, also comes from that EFC scene. But I will give him some credit. He went over to KSW, had some success there, even knocked out one of their top prospects, Solidich, I believe his name is. Now, they fought twice. KSW was like, wait a second, you didn't just knock out our top prospect. So they threw him in there again. And then, what was supposed to happen the first time happened the second time. Soldic knocked him out. But look, I got to give, du Plessis some credit, because 6 years ago, he was out here losing to guys like Gareth McClellan, which, I mean, that's a big red flag, man. Even though it was 6 years ago, because, like, you look at guys that we're high on, like whether it's Dustin Poirier or like Max Holloway or like John Jones, like I don't give a fuck if they're 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. They're not going to be caught dead losing to guys like Gareth McClellan. So I don't give a shit how long ago it was. That's a huge red flag, especially when you're talking about a favorite here.
Real quick, you remember when Gareth McClellan fought Alessio and Alessio looked like dog shit? But he still
How could
won.
I forget? We had money on Alessio that night.
Like, Alessio!
Alessio, wait. So, listen, man. Dricus du Plessis, this is what he's got going on. He's a pretty big dude, and he's very tough. You know what I mean? He's got a good guillotine, but a lot of his wins are comebacks. He'll get taken down easily. He'll kind of get dominated in fights, but he finds a way to come back. So I give him credit for that. But usually when I want to bet on comeback guys, I want to bet them at dog odds. I don't want to lay chalk on them. And with Maluko, he's a good gatekeeper, entry-level UFC fighter. You know what I mean? He's going to let you know if you belong in the UFC or not, and he'll fight tough. You know what I mean? He's got a hard body kick from the southpaw stance. His best element, though, his best attributes are his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu. He gets takedowns in a lot of fights. He's got a good back take, good guillotine, good darce, good anaconda, good rear naked choke. So, if Duplessis gets off to another slow start, there's a chance that Perez can come out here and possibly submit him, dangle off his neck, welcome into the UFC. The thing I'm worried about, man, is that Markus Maluko gets bullied in a lot of these fights, man. He's easy to push back into the fence, and then he starts getting tired. He starts spamming these spins, and he starts, doing some questionable shit out there. So that's what I'm most worried about. But honestly, I kind of think it's a 50-50 fight, so I'll slightly lean with the dog, Markus Maluko, to get it done. But there's a chance I'm way off, and maybe Duplessis is this prospect like everyone's talking about. But as of right now, I didn't really see it in the tape, so I'll roll with Markus Maluko.
Yeah, man, this is a fight where I'm really not high on either guy. Like, I feel like, I've been saying that with Maluko, even when he was supposed to fight Spicy, man, I had I had hesitancy to bet him at -2 something against Eric Spicy, because on tape, I finally just came to the realization that, man, there's a chance Markus Maluko Perez might not even be UFC level, just due to the fact that he's an undersized middleweight. He gets pushed back very, very easily. And another thing, like, how many spinning elbows are you going to attempt before you realize, like, bro, okay, like, I get it, Maluko, what does that mean? Like, crazy man or something like that? But, like, like, dude, like, stop with the spinning shit. Like, it gets him in so much trouble where now that makes him gas out, that gets him in the clinch, that fatigues him, and he just keeps doing it. So it's like, sometimes it works, but it has to be like, a bottom of the barrel like bum for him to get that type of stuff on, like Fluffy Hernandez, or it's funny because Fluffy Hernandez beat Brendan Allen, but or James Boshnovic, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, man, Maluko, he needs to do something, man. I heard he had to go back to work and get a real job before this fight, man. But maybe that's what he needed to realize. Like, man, I gotta get my shit together, man, or I'm gonna be out the UFC, man. I'm gonna be back fighting Paulo Tiago's, in jungle fights. You know what I'm saying? So, he better do something. This other guy, man, I'm not too impressed with him. I think he's tough, and I do think he has a template to bully and maybe outwork Maluko and out physical him and push him in the fence. Not gonna lie. But, man, I see it as a 50-50 fight. I agree. I feel like I got to go with the more experienced guy, the guy that's been in there with Eric Anders, the guy that's been in there with Andrew Sanchez. So I'm going to go with Markus Maluko Perez.
Next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Big Ben Rothwell, he's 38-12, and Marcin Tybura is 19-6. Currently, they got Big Ben Rothwell -150. The comeback on Marcin Tybura is +130. So, Shaq, there's only three ways I can see this fight going. Either it's going to be a Ben Rothwell knockout, either it's going to be a Marcin Tybura grind, or it's going to be one of those heavyweight shit show fights. So, out of those three options, which way you see it going?
Yeah, I agree, man. It's a good chance. Like, look, like when I watch tape, on this fight, it's screaming trap. It's screaming like, I know Tybura doesn't like getting hit, and he backs up and he covers up when he gets hit, but man, Rothwell, man, in times kind of drops the ball. When he fought Arlovsky, he was chalked there, and he lost that fight. When he fought Blagoy Ivanov, even though a lot of people thought he won, he was chalked there. He lost that fight too. And then, he was able to pick up the win against OSP, which I actually did think it was more improved because, he was out, after his not first, but second steroid suspension, So, you have to remember that he is fighting without that, Remember when he was on that stuff, man, my boy Big Ben was out here tapping Josh Barnett out and shit. And and making Matt Mitrione tap cry for mama in there. You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
remember
man.
remember that dance he did in the third round against Brandon Vera?
Yeah, and then he turned up on him and knocked him out. Yeah. So man, I feel like Tybura, he's coming off 2 wins. He got the win over Spivak, a young kid, was able to, show the experience there. And then the Maxine Grisham fight, that guy's a 205er. Man, I feel like there is some openings for Tybura to counter Rothwell, and he does have the ability to strike moving backwards. Like Tybura has the ability. It's all about what's going on in that heart and upstairs, man, with that dude. Like, you never know. I honestly feel like skill wise, it's an even fight, but there is no denying that Rothwell does put pressure. He does, behave as the tougher guy, the guy that's willing to take more chances in there. But Rothwell gets hit a lot. He takes a lot of damage in his fights. I mean, every Big Ben fight, his face is pretty much bloodied up. I think he's gonna tough this one out and be a little tougher, but it would not shock me if Tybura was able to weasel a sloppy heavyweight decision here and maybe mix in the head kick upstairs, because Ben fights with his hands down and he squares his stance a lot, man, and at heavyweight that's dangerous. But Tybura on the flip side, man, his toughness is always in question, but right now, man, he's off 2 wins. Like, he should be starting to feel like somewhat of his old self, man. So we'll see. But I'll go with Big Ben, but I'll say by sweaty, close split decision. I know a lot of people think he's gonna knock him out, man, and I see it. Look, but I don't think Big Ben is a Sakai or a Verdum or the one of who else did he get knocked out against? Black Beast. I don't see him being one of those guys. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, look, man, ever since Ben Rothwell came back from that suspension, he's just looked god slow, man. Like, dude, like that Arlovsky fight, Arlovsky was out there looking like Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston.
My boy needs his juice, bro. He needs his juice back.
Yeah, he hasn't done that dance that he did against Brandon Vera in like 3-4 years. You know what I mean, man? So, and also like the Bulgoy fight, he was looking slow. The Stefan Struve fight, he's losing the entire fight until the controversial low blow, followed by the finish. And then the OSP fight was, let's be honest, let's call it for what it is, was one of those shit show heavyweight fights, man. So, yeah, and then Tybura, he's been gaining weight. He's not the most confident. He's really shaky, too. So I don't really know. I'm just going to pick Rothwell because I think he's tougher. I think he hits harder. I think he can go forward. But, again, I would not be surprised by the weasel job by Tybura, like you mentioned, or if he gets grinded out. But I'll edge Rothwell here. Co-main event of the evening in the featherweight division, we got Edson Jr. Barboza. He's 20-9, and Makwan, Mr. Finland, Amir Khani is 16-4. Currently, they got Edson Barboza minus 270. The comeback on Makwan Amir Khani is plus 230. So there's a lot of talk about Edson Barboza being washed, and let me just say this, man. While, yeah, he's closer to the end of his career than he is the beginning of his career, it's not like a Tyron Woodley situation. Like, Tyron Woodley won't even throw a punch. Tyron Woodley's losing 15 straight rounds. Tyron Woodley, has lost over an hour of octagon time straight. Whereas Edson Barboza, he's losing to these guys, but, like, he's still winning rounds in these fights. He's still fighting competitively with top 10 guys. So, like, he's still in there. He's still hanging in there, man.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So, to counter that, I'd say, Woodley, yes, he has lost his last 15 rounds, but to the 3 best dudes in the division, and Edson, at one point was top 5. Now he's losing to dudes named Dan Ige. You know what I'm saying? But no, I'm saying, would Woodley lose? Would Woodley lose 20 straight rounds if he got matched up with? Hold on, let me take that. I was gonna say Magny. He probably would lose 20 straight rounds.
The difference here is that, like, Woodley won't even throw a punch anymore. So I got Cerrone over Woodley. I got pretty much anyone over Woodley at this point because Woodley just won't fight. Whereas Barboza will still fight. He just isn't going to be a top 5 guy anymore. Like Dan Ige, I know he would have never lost to him a million years ago, but like Dan Ige is like a top 10, top 15 guy. Paul Felder's a top 10, top 15 guy. And, Barboza's still winning rounds against these guys. Whereas Makwan Amirkhani is not a top 5 guy, not a top 10 guy, not a top 15 guy, and in my opinion, is not a top 20 guy. And that's no disrespect because Makwan Amirkhani, he's won a bunch of fights in the UFC. And I think that, look, if he gets one submission attempt on Barboza, the fight could be over. If he gets his arms around Barboza's neck, I'm not convinced Barboza isn't tapping. The thing is that for him to get to that point, he's just gotta have to go through some heat where, like, I'm not sure he's able to go through that, man. And also, I feel like while they both might have cardio issues, I feel like Makwan has got the worst cardio here, and I'm just not convinced that he can take Barboza down and do his game plan here. The only person to take down Barboza in the last, 4 or 5 fights is Ige in that 3rd round, and he had to go through some shit, man. He almost got finished in the 1st and 2nd round in that fight. So I just think that there's levels to this shit, and when Barboza wins this fight and then he gets matched up with Sodiq, then we can follow up on our initial plans. But this is not Sodiq anymore. This is Makwan. I don't think he's on this level, so I got Edson Barboza here, man.
Yeah, I definitely got Edson. I think Makwan has cardio issues, like you said, and in the striking, man, out in space, it's a possible mismatch, 100%. I mean, Makwan likes to press with the takedowns, but Edson's been taken down more than just Dan Ige in that 3rd round. The Kevin Lee fight, man, he got completely fucking dominated. I mean, these are top-notch guys. Definitely not. Makwan's definitely not on that level, but man, things just keep happening to Edson that would have never happened to him. So that is kind of in the back of my mind when we talk about laying that type of line on him, at this stage and at this health in his career. But Makwan Amirkhani, man, it's a big difference, fighting Chris Fishgold and
Danny Henry
and
Jason Knight
and Mike Wilkinson. It's nice and dandy on those little Euro cards, but now we're talking. Look, even at like you were saying, you still got to go through somewhat hell to beat Edson. Like Ige, who was a step down for him, still got his calf smashed, a vicious body shot dropped. I mean, he had to go through shit to accomplish that win. And Makwan Amirkhani has shown, man, whenever he takes shots like that, he kind of folds, man. The Burgos fight, which was his one, Arnold Allen, that was what, got him the L's. Every time he got cracked really hard on the chin, I mean, it was a clear reaction. So, yeah, I see Edson Barboza taking the win. He should come out here and light Amirkhani. It's just, man, I am nervous just because, sometimes I feel like these guys want it more than him. I feel like, Makwan might want it more than him. This is a big fight, the biggest fight of his career. I feel like Ige beat him on one, and I feel like a lot of guys have beaten Edson on one. So, we'll see. But sometimes, it's not about skills; it's about who wants it more. So, I'll take Edson, but it's a dogger pass for me.
Main event of the evening in the bantamweight division, we got Magic Marlon Moraes. She's 23-6, and Cory the Sandman Sandhagen is 12-2. Currently, they got Cory Sandhagen minus 140. The comeback on Marlon Moraes is plus 120. So, Shaq, the line has flipped. Vegas opened it minus 135 for Magic Marlon Moraes. The public disagrees. They think Cory Sandhagen should be the favorite. So, we alluded to it. We alluded it at the beginning of the show. You got the output king, Cory Sandhagen, or you got the head kick king, Magic Marlon Moraes here?
I feel like this is a great matchup, man. You got, like you said, Cory Sandhagen. He likes to move forward. He likes to feint, switch stance, do the whole, Dominic Cruz, TJ Dillashaw thing. And then you got Magic Marlon Moraes, who's coming in with that dynamic Muay Thai game, vicious power. One of the more, he is the hardest hitter at bantamweight. That's just facts. So yeah, I think, look, either way, either guy is going to be a tough fight. Can Cory Sandhagen weather that first 5 to 7 minute storm, that vicious power that's coming from Marlon Moraes? And look, Cory Sandhagen has had a lot of trouble in the early stages of his fights. Look at his last fight against Aljamain Sterling. He let Aljamain come out and rush him right away, and that was different from the majority of his other fights where Cory Sandhagen likes to come out and be the guy leading the dance. Look at when he fought Yuri Alcantara. Yuri Alcantara dropped him in the first round, and a lot of people are saying if Moraes gets to the third, fourth, fifth round, which historically speaking have given him trouble 100%, that this fight is going to be in the bag for Sandhagen. But look, Sandhagen's lost third rounds in the past, and I feel like his third round ability is slightly a little inflated just because I feel like, the Rafael Assunção fight, look, all due respect to Rafael Assunção, but since Magic Marlon Moraes finished him down there in Brazil, that it's been over ever since then. I mean, at that age, when you get up to that point and then you get knocked down like that, you don't come back, and you see what's happened to Assunção since then. So I feel like he was able to feast on the carcasses there, and like I honestly feel like that win has a little bit too much stock. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't think Rafael Assunção is no longer a top 10 guy at bantamweight with the dudes in that division now, man. Like fucking, like honestly, and then with Marlon Moraes, I feel like what I'm getting to, man, I feel like there's a lot of emotions in this fight. Well, a lot of people are holding this grudge against Magic Marlon Moraes because they felt that he lost to Jose Aldo his last fight. And I feel like they're kind of,
And real quick, Shaq, sorry to interrupt. And because they bet him big against Henry Cejudo.
Exactly. I was actually on my boy Henry Cejudo in that fight. How can you not take Henry at underdog money against anyone? You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, I know Henry can do that, but I don't know. I don't know if, these other dudes can do that. Yeah, Henry Cejudo, like the Olympic gold medalist, that dude that beat Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson and knocked TJ Dillashaw out in under a minute, can do that. But these other dudes, I don't know about that, man. So I feel like, honestly, Marlon Moraes' stock is low for emotional reasons, man. I feel like a lot of people are pissed, like you said, that he lost to Henry, that he let everyone down, and they tried to get it back with Jose Aldo, and then he was able to come back and win. And now I feel like it's trickling into this fight. Now, look, I'm not confident that he's going to win. Look, I agree. Yeah, he fatigues. Yeah, if he doesn't get first round knockouts, things usually get a little sketch. I 100% agree. I just feel like Cory Sandhagen might possibly want to be these dudes that, I don't want to say overachieved, but maybe things might come back down to a little bit of reality for him. I mean, look, he came into the UFC and just swept right up into that top 5 like it was nothing. Now he might go through a little bit of growing pains, fighting at the Sterlings and the Magic Marlon Moraes. I mean, Sandhagen a few years ago was just a kid on the local scene, man. So, like, I like Sandhagen. I definitely see the path for him to win with the volume. But to be honest, man, I feel like Marlon Moraes deserves to be the favorite here, man. I feel like he's finished guys, higher level guys, beating Jose Aldo, who Peter Yan just beat for the title. Like, I feel like Marlon Moraes is just getting disrespected a little bit too much in this spot. I see it being a close fight either way, but I see Magic Marlon Moraes at some point clipping Cory Sandhagen with, or breaking him down with the calf kicks. I see an effort in that Jose Aldo fight. I saw an effort of him trying to pace himself a little better. I mean, look, that Henry Cejudo fight was a nightmare for him. I mean, he got broken in a way. I feel like his confidence going into the Jose Aldo fight was a little low. And I mean, to fight Jose Aldo on low confidence and still beat him, man, just shows me the type of fighter that he is. And I feel like now he's going to be even more confident. And I feel like he's going to get back on track, man. I feel like Magic Marlon Moraes is still the number one guy in this division outside of Peter Yan. So we'll see.
Look, the matchmaking is interesting. Obviously, it's a great matchup stylistically. The volume versus the power, the pace versus the number one guy on planet Earth. But it's like when you get stopped in 90 seconds, like he did versus Aljamain, that you don't go ahead and fight the number one guy on planet Earth. You take a step back. You fight a Jimmy Rivera. You fight a Pedro Munoz. You fight a Rob Font. I feel like those would have been more suitable opponents because I do think that Cory Sandhagen's got top 5 potential, and officially he's a top 5 guy. He's ranked number 4 in the world, but it's just like he's only in the top 5 because he beat a 40-year-old Assunção, which we both bet him there against the Sunset. Great fucking matchup for him. And this whole thing about, if it goes past the first round, that automatically Cory's going to win. I mean, maybe that's the case, but I just think that's kind of bullshit. Like, you want to know a little stat? You know that Magic Marlon Moraes has won more decisions than Cory Sandhagen in his career? And also, he's the only one out of the two that's been to the 4th and 5th round in his career before. So it's just a different level of experience. Like, to sit here and say that all he's got to do is get past the first round, it's like you have to be a certain level to weather this kind of storm by Magic Marlon. You have to actually be a top 5 guy to weather this storm. And I do think that Cory can be a top 5 guy in our eyes. Officially, he's a top 5 guy right now. But in our eyes, I think he can be a top 5 guy one day. I'm just not convinced that he's that guy right now, man. Like, for example, the Yuri Alcantara fight, I mean, dude, he's tough as hell, Cory Sandhagen, to walk through the shots he did. He did get dropped, and he did get his face smashed, and, luckily he's double jointed, so he survived that arm bar. And then, Yuri pulled a Brazilian stun, and he got pounded out. But, like, even in the Lineker fight, I felt like Cory was starting to slow down in that 3rd round, man, because when you throw that kind of output, naturally, you're gonna have to slow down at some point, man, when you're throwing that many strikes. And I did feel like he was barely hanging on in that 3rd round versus John Lineker, and John Lineker is a 5'3" former flyweight, man. Now we're talking about the number 1 guy on planet Earth. And again, there's a difference between being an output machine and a cardio machine. And I feel like people are acting like those are the same things. Those are not the same things, man. There's a huge difference between the two. Frankie Edgar is a cardio machine. Cory Sandhagen's an output machine. But I'm just not convinced that he can maintain that output throughout a 5-round duration. And also, just stylistically speaking, he's a very tall kid for the division, 5'10", 5'11". I feel like Marlon Moraes is going to come out here, chop down the tree with those calf kicks, get the kid to start switching stances. Eventually, Cory's going to start wobbling on one leg. And then I think that Magic's going to land, the fight-ending blow with the head kick. And back to the Jose Aldo example, Magic won the first round. Jose won the 2nd round, and Marlon edged it in the 3rd. And to act like it's a big deal that he lost the 2nd round to Aldo, guys, Peter Yan lost the 2nd round to Aldo. So I just don't see why you're going to hold that against him. So, look, there's no question that fights do get kind of sketchy when they go out the 1st round with Marlon, but, like, Henry Cejudo had to go through hell to win that fight. Henry Cejudo had to dig deep to a place where not many people are willing to go. I don't know if y'all remember, but that 1st and 2nd round, people were saying that Henry Cejudo, he looks lost out there. He looks like this fight's about to be over. Marlon Moraes looks like a champion. And for Henry Cejudo to weather a storm like that, like you said, man, Olympic gold medalist, flyweight champion, bantamweight champion, like Triple C. This is a unique individual, and I like Cory Sandhagen. I respect him a lot. I'm just not convinced that he's that guy right now. So for that reason, I'm going Marlon Moraes. I think he gets the stoppage, and I do think that Cory will be back. It's just that I think Cory should be fighting the Pedro Munozes, the Rob Font, the Jimmy Riveras, even like Frankie Edgar. I'm not convinced he's ready for this level yet. I think that last fight proved it. And yeah, he might not get his back taken, get choked out in the 1st round, but like I expected a little bit more resistance in that Aljamain Sterling fight. Like, that was a big letdown in my eyes. I'm not sure where his confidence is right now. You need a tune-up fight. You don't just go and fight the number 1 guy in the world after getting stopped at 90 seconds, man. So, yeah, I get everyone's angle with the volume, but like, I just don't think he's quite developed and seasoned yet for this spot. So I'm going Magic Marlon via knockout. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Fight Island 5?
My fight to watch is going to be Yussef Zalal versus Ilia, man. I feel like Yussef Zalal if he's able to come out here and get this win, man, and go 4-0 his first year in the UFC, man, that'll carry a lot of momentum into 2021, and it'll probably be one of the top prospect, if not the top prospect in that division. And if Ilia comes out here and gets the win, man, that's a knocking off a prospect like Yussef, especially with his young age as well. Then you're gonna have to keep a new lookout for him and these Georgians, man. You got Merab, Chikadze is fighting the dude that knocked out Cadiz. I forget it. What's his Roman? So yeah, man. I feel like the Georgians are coming up here too. So yeah.
My girl Jojua got a first round finish too.
Jojua, I mean, Georgia's going crazy right now, man.
Yeah, like for me, my fight to watch is a no-brainer. It's Giga Chikadze versus Omar Moraes. I mean, I see like 0% chance that this fight is boring, and not only that, it's a big fight for two featherweight prospects that are hungry, that want to take it to that next level, and just stylistically speaking, such a fantastic matchup. So, and also when I'm not really sure who's gonna win, that automatically makes it one of the fights to watch. So, my fight to watch is Omar Moraes versus Giga Chikadze. Now, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC Fight Island 5?
My fighter to watch, man, is gonna be in the main event, man. Magic Marlon Moraes, man. Just the, I just feel like it's blatant disrespect, Daniel, man. I feel like it's emotional. I mean, cause bro, me and you both watched the Jose fight. I was there with you watching that when he fought Jose, and everyone there was confident Jose had won. But I looked at you, I was like, I mean, me and you were confident that Moraes won, man. So I feel like people are just discrediting what he's done, and I feel like his stock's low for this Jose Aldo fight, and I feel like people should put some respect on his name. But hey, maybe Cory Sandhagen comes out here and proves me wrong. But I feel like Magic Marlon Moraes, man, with a vicious knockout this weekend, is going to remind everyone why just a year ago he was. I remember going into the Cejudo fight, Magic Marlon Moraes was fucking Jesus. I mean, and I mean that, like, literally everyone thought that Henry Cejudo was a sacrificial lamb going into that fight.
It was a foregone conclusion that Magic was going to win that fight. People were talking about like putting their whole accounts on Magic in that fight. I remember that shit too. And now they're the same exact talk on Cory Sandhagen. It's interesting how this game works. For me, my fighter to watch is Tom Aspinall. Look, it's not often that you see these young heavyweight prospects come along. Like we got Cyril Gahn. I think he's the only heavyweight prospect in his 20s besides. Is he in his 20s? Let me make sure I'm not full of shit here. Hold on one second.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, cool. So you got Cyril Gahn, who's in his 20s, and now you got Tom Aspinall, who's 25, actually taking on Cyril Gahn's training partner. But between you and me, he's Cyril Gahn's punching bag. But that being said, I like what this kid Aspinall brings to the table. He's a very exciting guy to watch. He's very smart if you hear him talk. He's well-rounded. He's got the size. I think he's someone to look out for in this heavyweight division. I think he can make some waves, and for that reason, he is my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night. Inyas Island, Abu Dhabi, Fight Island. Magic Marlon Moraes versus Cory the Sandman Sandhagen. They can follow you at MMA Genius 05. They can follow me at Best Fight Picks. They can get our plays at bestfightpicks.com. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. We truly appreciate all the support from all the fans. Thank you guys very much. We're going to be back next week for Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie. Hell of a fight right there, Shaq. So thank you again to all our fans. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.